Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Show, a show where we talk about the design, development, and marketing of digital products. With me today is Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu is the CEO of CrelioHealth. Crelio has an ambitious vision to bring diagnostics at the center of the healthcare ecosystem. They're connecting providers and customers in a single environment through a SaaS and mobile application. Abhimanyu, welcome to the show.
Thanks for the warm introduction, Ali.
So most of the guests that we've interviewed so far, they've had like a similar trajectory. What I've observed is they start working somewhere in some of the other role,
Correct.
and then they identify some gap as they're working,
Correct.
and then they start up somewhere down the line as they build conviction. But I think your story is different.
Yeah.
You started right after college.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
It's very interesting. I mean, I'd love to learn more as to why after that and things like that.
Sure.
But before we move in, let's start with a quick fireside chat. Quick questions, quick answers. So if you were to be in any other profession, what would that be?
Product management.
Product management, right?
Yeah, I love doing that. I still do it.
I think largely founders do that.
Yeah, founders do that, and I'm just passionate about it. I applied to a product design school before doing engineering, so yeah, product management all in, like, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bootstrapped or funded?
In hindsight, bootstrap.
Why?
It depends on what you're building, of course. Like,
Yeah.
It depends, but if I have to do something again, like, I would have some inclination towards like doing it bootstrap, because I can take my time.
And that's a good thing.
That's absolutely a good thing. Like, you can build a team, and yeah, I think.
And that does take time.
It does take time, and like, India does not have like that type of talent that you can just like find the most specific people who have done that 20 times before or whatever, like a couple of times before, and can replicate it for you. For consumer tech, maybe. For certain B2B SaaS, maybe. If you want to go and do something like in health tech, we did not see that talent at all. Like, so we had to build it from scratch. Like, everyone who were doing health tech or had backgrounds of health tech came with a baggage that the industry works in a certain way, and there's no way to change that. So they weren't the right. So yeah, like, I don't know, it depends, but yeah, I think we'll bootstrap.
And looking at the landscape now in India, there's a lot of digitization that's happened.
Correct.
Like, if you were to invest in sort of any 3 startups, which ones would you pick?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Like,
because we're seeing digitization happen everywhere, right?
Yes.
Every pocket of
So I would invest in, like, there's this company called as ERP Next.
Okay.
So amazing guys. I don't know when they'll be. What's the ROI timeline? But amazing folks. So
what do they do?
They make an open source ERP.
Okay.
And they make really good like ERP solutions. So I've admired like Rishabh, like the founder, for a while, and yeah, I think so. They would be one of them. I think there's this healthcare group which is now pretty big, but they were part of one of the entrepreneurial meetups, or like a crash course we did, which was a Stanford Seed program. So Suchin's company, which is now an Ujjwala Group company, but he runs a chain of hospitals. So yeah, I would definitely those guys. And there's another company which makes toys, which is also a part of the Stanford Group.
Okay.
He's one of our entrepreneurial Mumbai Pune group
Okay.
member. So he runs a toy company and he's making like robotic toys. He was there on Shark Tank some time back.
Okay.
With Abbas, I would invest in him.
Okay.
Because like,
Was it the one who was making toys for like specific groups of children? I think it was like children with special needs or something like that. Was it that person?
like they might be doing that, but it was like they were making, they make like robotic toys, which is just for fun, mostly. Zypher Tech.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, Zypher.
And when you're thinking about your own team, the ones that you work with very closely, do you prefer generalists or specialists?
Generalists. If I have to choose, generalists. Because you will always find specialists on the way and you can groom them. Of course, like there'll be some people who will be really good at it, but almost always they can't be great managers. So it takes a generalist to be a good manager.
But you guys must be having specific roles and skill sets that are needed, right?
Yeah.
It's just that you are not working with them directly.
Yeah, or we do have sort of specialists at manager level, but they have been sort of groomed and like learned to be slightly more general. There's always like they can't be. It's hard to flip the entire side, but
it is.
Yeah.
Marketing or sales?
I'm more of a salesperson.
Okay, that makes sense if you ask me, given like the nature of what you guys do. I'm guessing it's a very high touch point.
Oh, it is a high touch point. Yes.
Sale.
Correct.
Does marketing even matter in your world?
Not so much. We have to be big farmhouse for marketing to matter. So otherwise, we are fine.
And the last question is the Thiel question. What is the one truth that few people agree with you on?
Okay. I think agree with me on. I know what they don't agree with me on.
See.
But yeah, that's an easier one. I think people understand that better products ultimately win. I think everybody kind of agrees to that. I think deep down everybody knows better products are going to win eventually. It's just a matter of how long you sustain.
So let's talk about your journey of building Crelio. But before we, deep dive, why don't you tell us a little bit about Crelio and the current product suite that you guys offer?
Okay, sure. So, let me give you some context in terms of where we came from. We started Crelio with a goal in mind to make healthcare democratized for patients. And we wanted to make healthcare access, especially information access, and making that information more understandable for patients.
Right.
So when you get a lab report or do an examination, we wanted to make it more informed for you, ultimately enabling you to make a better decision. But in that entire a year of effort, we realized that the systems are broken on provider side. We can't just pull in data. We can't just educate patients, and it's not that straightforward. There are a lot of caveats. And we made a pivot. The pivot was to do B2B first. And I think most early stage founders do, they think that they will do the rest later, which kind of doesn't happen, because then the B2B space took a lot of our thing. In B2B, we actually ran experiments. So we ran experiments running a clinic management software and a lab management software. And we realized that the lab guys actually needed the software. And what I mean by that is they would use the software every day for a few hours.
Yeah, I mean, a clinic is going to run fine if the computer...
Exactly. If there's no electricity, internet, whatever, they're going to be fine. They don't care. And that's when we realized that, if you have to make something that people want, it's best to go on the diagnostic side. Right. So we started doubling down on that. We shut down the clinic product. We had one customer, and anyway. So when the lab product started maturing, we realized that there are multiple different types of labs, and there are way more complexities in diagnostics than what we initially assumed. And that's kind of what we did for 5 years, just build the diagnostic product, the core diagnostic product. And a lot of that building was actually keeping long-term in mind. So many of these things came in handy later to spin off versions of the product.
Yeah.
And once we reached at a stage where we didn't have a lot of new stuff to add on, and we had decent product market fit in India at least, we started looking outside, and we did Middle East, and then eventually a parts of Africa, and then eventually US. And so during each of those milestones, we expanded to different like products and flavors. The core was always the information system. We always considered it as like a diagnostic information system, but people call it LIMS, and LIMS is the lab information system. And then the radiology guys call it the radiology RIS, which is the radiology information system. So it's kind of like that, like those two products. On top of that, we have specialized products for lab, which is the we integrate the medical instrument, like the big arrays of processing instruments. We integrate that. We've got a middleware for that. And then similarly for CT, MRI scans, we have got a system for that, which is the PACS system. So those are two other products. We've got a patient engagement product, which we launched in the US for COVID and during like remote sort of experience time. So that was the CRM. We call it the CRM because most people understand what it means, rather than it's essentially like a booking platform, an on-demand booking platform, like Squarespace for like labs or healthcare providers. Like they can do vaccination and these appointment bookings, do payments, insurance, and
so there is a core sort of system to manage all of your reports and share them, and then there are different modules for specific labs like imaging and even the multi-specialty multiple labs, things like that. And is it just offered as a SaaS?
Yeah, it's offered as SaaS through and through. All products offered as SaaS. There are times when we do certain custom development on top of it if you need. That is highly for enterprise customers, like 1 in 1,000 customers.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So let's sort of rewind and go back in time to the start. So you mentioned that you guys started with a clinic management system. Why did you start there? Like, what was the?
We were inspired by Practo, quite honestly, and we felt that obviously if healthcare has to get better, the first thought everybody has is let's make the doctor more productive. And the reality is, like, there's a bit of he doesn't want to be. He thinks they're already productive, and on the other hand, they kind of don't need also. Like they are like single people led organizations, so they're going to manage their.
These are clinics, right?
These are individual GPs. Yeah. So they're pretty fine themselves. They don't need software so much.
So this was back in 2012.
Yeah, 2012, 2013.
So 2012, 2013, you guys are building this clinic management system. Did you guys go in, like, did you build it first and then show it to people? Like, how did that work?
No, so we found a guy. We told him that we have a really good system.
Built.
Yeah, kind of. Like, we showed him mock-ups, and they don't know the difference. They believed it, and we got the first sale, and then we built it. Because we were lazy, and we didn't want to kind of...
It's a funny story. So I did the same thing when I was doing my second startup. We really didn't know what the product market fit was. And we would take like these Ola rides with people. And on my phone, on the gallery app, I just had made these mock-ups that looked like a mobile app. I would just show it to the driver. He's half driving, look at my phone. I would just keep tap, but I would just swipe to the next page and he'd be like, wow, this is quite interesting.
And that works.
It does work. I think people don't understand the value of taking early feedback from customers, right? And especially people who have like engineering background. They tend to start building. Okay, so you got your first sale. Then you build it. How long did that first build take? Was it just you or?
No, it was actually it was about 5 of us. We hadn't incorporated a company back then, but it was about 5 of us. And we built it in about like 3 to 4 months. It was bad shell, but it was fine. It did the job.
So it involved like registering a patient, creating a medical record, some billing, invoicing, those kinds of things.
Largely billing and then prescription uploads. We did prescription writing on the system, but our customer said that he's not going to do it anyway, so just upload and scan and upload.
They prefer to just write it.
Scan and write it,
And then you do your first deployment, and then what was that journey like? What did you
So
guys learn?
we started going to the clinic and training the staff.
Okay.
And they did not have internet, so we had to get internet installed.
You guys had to...
We got the internet. It was fun because we did not expect it, but we knew what it looked like, so we were fine about it. And at that time, you barely have that kind of this thing that why should I go and do it? But we were kids, so it didn't matter. We set up the internet, and there's the time in an afternoon. This was in Pimpri. There was a time in an afternoon when the lights went off, and there were patients in the waiting room and all that, and we just had that realization that these guys just don't like it. There's nothing that affects them.
It's not a critical system.
Yeah, and it was a decently large clinic. It was like 4 doctors, and we realized that it just doesn't matter to them whether the electricity is there. Like forget the internet, and we're like, okay, this is not gonna work. Like everybody kind of realized it, but we acted on it about a month later. Like, because we were all just absorbing that fact that does he really need it? And then at one point, one of us is like, you know what, I don't think this is gonna work because that guy even doesn't need it.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess Practo was anyway solving the whole awareness problem. Like getting them business was taken care of by those guys.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's next? Like you guys, in that time, you were also talking to other actors.
Yeah, we were talking to even hospitals. We were talking. We did not leave anybody to go and talk to because we didn't know what to build in the first place. So we wanted to know, because healthcare was something which is like very far from what any one of us was in the founding team is even understanding how it works. It seemed very easy from the outside.
Yeah.
But we realized that it's a mammoth in itself from the inside. So we got a lab in Aund. So a very, very small lab. And he said that, he would give us like a half a year subscription advance, and he'll pay the rest after we deliver the software.
What was the sale to him? Like what was the main thing that he was looking for? What is the pain point?
So he was looking for messaging to patients.
Okay.
Where every patient that is booked gets an order. And of course he had other problems internally, like his current system wasn't working with the instruments, and but I think that the main thing was patients getting like online reports.
Okay.
Like that was a big deal for him. Yeah.
And until then, all of the reports were collected manually, I'm guessing.
Yes.
People would come in and collect their...
Or physically emailed, like they would download it and mail.
All right. And then payments were already done upfront, or was it like half first?
Payments were never done remotely for the most longest time.
Yeah.
Because online payments was not that great anyways, and they were always done upfront. Or people used to come and collect the report and then pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about you guys. So do you come from like a business background? Like what's...
Yeah, so me and Mukund, like both, like us two co-founders, both come from business background. So but there are like first gen businesses. Well,
okay.
Generationally it has been business, but every generation has been a different business. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, neither of them made it large enough that the next generation can really run the company. I don't know. I'm just joking, but yeah.
But I think the dinner conversations would have been all around,
Yes.
how to grow, and then what was it typically like?
Yeah, so we saw a lot of like ups and downs in my own personal like view of what my dad was doing.
Yeah.
And he's kind of tried like 3 like startups. And like I've seen those first 2 failures, right?
Right.
And he always used to shrug it off. So, and I always took it that casually, like it's fine, it will be better next time.
There's no fear.
Yeah. And that's what we kind of took forward with us. So it was fine if things don't work one day, Yeah. It's like, it was okay. So we didn't find it like that bad. And we realized that most of the, like we had amazing, like very smart people in our like school, college, and who could also potentially start up or maybe join us. But I think in hindsight, like they kind of felt that as a baggage or a fear or something they were worried about, where they felt something was holding them back, or what if it fails? And for me, or even Mukund for that matter, it's okay if it fails. Like, it's fine.
I think it's okay to have that fear as well. Right?
Correct.
Like, I think
Absolutely,
it's fine.
Yeah.
It's actually, I think that's when I talk to you, I feel like that's a very big sort of advantage that you have when I'm talking to other founders. They still have the sort of
Fear of failure.
Yeah, they still do have that little fear of failure. But I mean, I think if you have that background where all you've seen is,
a lot of failure.
or just the drive to do something on your own, I think you typically grow with that mindset of doing that.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, I doubt that you're even thinking about failure.
Yeah, like actually, we don't end up worrying about it so much. Like, things break and okay, fine. Like,
you just keep on thinking about like, how do you get this right?
Yes.
Interesting. And why did you pick engineering?
Oh, so I knew that if it's not product design, it has to be engineering, because I always loved like computer programming. So I learned like Photoshop and computer programming like in about 7th, 8th grade.
Okay.
And like I've been doing it since, and I always loved like working around software, just designing software, and it was fun. Like in my first year, I did an internship with a startup here in Pune. Next year also I did, like all 4 years I did internships. Design software. Like I love designing software. Like it was fun, and building it was the next obvious thing. So I wanted to always know how it's built. I don't think I'm the best best at it. But I can hack my way around. So I can find my way around. Like I can figure that out.
So help me understand this. So you guys pivot from that clinic management system. You build this initial lab management system with some few features. What was like that growth in that first year? So we're talking 2013. You guys ended with how many customers?
Oh, we just had like one customer. Couple of people committed, but by the next year we had about 50 customers.
All in Pune?
Yeah, almost all in Pune. Yeah, all in Pune. Yeah.
And like, help me understand the landscape here. So I'm guessing this industry is fairly fragmented, right?
It is highly fragmented.
Like, what's the number? Like, how many labs are we looking at?
There would be about 2 to 3 lakh laboratories in like 2 to 300,000 labs in India alone.
In India, all I'm guessing specializing in different tests. They all have their
actually
own products.
Most of them do the same tests. It's just that it's profitable to like take the order from the provider. So there are 10 times number of individual practitioners, like doctors. And each of the doctors. So today, about 80% of any healthcare diagnosis comes with a lab test, right? So that lab test gets funneled to any lab which would give them the best deal in terms of the best price, best service, quality of reports and whatnot. So it's that relationship that matters, and it's if you start a new lab, whether you process it or not, if you get the GP, the business is yours, and you can build your own lab.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that's still quite a big capital commitment, right? For the infrastructure and the machines and things like that. So who are these guys? These guys are like, do they have like a degree in pathology, and then they like...
So there is a decent portion of them who are MD pathologists.
Okay.
But there's an even larger portion which is DMLT people. DMLT is basically people who are lab techs inside the lab. They're not doctors.
Okay.
Or they don't have a MD medicine degree. They know how to run samples.
Okay.
Yeah, and they know how to manage those instruments.
So they create a lab, they do some capital investment, and they build relations with all these GPs around in that area.
Correct.
And that's how they funnel things.
Correct. And labs today, like in fact a couple of years since, they don't need a lot of capital investment. So the lab systems and the instrument companies have moved to an OPEX model.
Oh,
So you take the machine for free and just buy reagents from me.
okay.
So you give me a minimum order guarantee, and it's yours. So
Interesting. And then, but there are companies who are trying to sort of organize this sector.
yes.
Like, give me a few. Help me understand like
So,
the competition here.
There's Dr. Lal's, there's Thyrocare, Metropolis, and SRL, the 4 big
Right.
companies in India. They've been trying to consolidate this for like about last 20, 30
Do
years.
they subcontract to them or they're their own labs?
They have their own labs.
Okay.
They have their own labs, yeah.
So they collect the samples and then they ship them to these labs, they process it overnight, and then they send back the reports.
Correct.
So they don't need this. They have their own software.
Yes. Well, yeah, we still kind of work with some of them for bits and pieces. I think there's an opportunity to change that at some point when they think software is important. Right now, they just work on the legacy that they carry forward with, and it's like, if it's working, don't change it kind of mindset right now, because everyone's facing like revenue pressure. All big four. Neither have really shown significant growth in revenue.
Okay.
Not more than like 10% annually. So
I'm guessing this is also a very efficiency-based game, right? Like that's like that key metric where they need to turn around these tests really quickly.
Yeah.
What's like the profitability that they're dealing with, like per test?
per test, depending on the type of test, like some are more expensive, some are cheaper, but on an average about 20-25%.
That's
Yeah.
very, so if you've got your machines right,
Correct.
and if you've got your partnerships right, it's
Yes. It's a profitable business, yes. Healthcare through and through is decently profitable. It's not, yeah, it's decently profitable, yeah.
okay. Understood. So you guys go out in year 2, you have 50 customers.
Yeah.
Was there a change in the product or was it still the same suite of features that you're offering?
So we were constantly building features for pretty much every new customer.
What is that changing feature? Like what is that one thing that you realized that helped you go from like 1 to 50 in year 2? Or was it just a sales? Is it like a high touch point thing?
It is a high touch point sales for sure. Like we have to meet them and we have to build that trust.
How approachable are these guys?
They're fairly approachable. Like, yeah, I think there is a part of healthcare industry that people are trying to do entirely remote in terms of product adoption.
Yeah.
That kind of doesn't work in India. In fact, most of the world, the more closer you're in person with a customer, it just wins in this industry for sure. Like that is, so you meeting them helps close faster. Like we had our own whims in between of like, let's do remote and let's scale this and all that. It doesn't scale.
So you're meeting all these people in person.
Yes.
And then you're constantly, and I'm guessing like not a lot of people are catering to this, right?
Yeah.
Like who are you guys competing with?
We are competing with a lot of local software and some organized players, but they also do all sorts of different software. So they make like hospital management systems, they make, billing and insurance systems and whatnot. So the problem is the labs don't get like a highly specialized workflow or like a highly specialized management solution.
I'm guessing they also don't get that sales experience.
Yeah, they don't get that. I think depending on the size of the lab, but the smaller guys obviously don't get that sales.
At what scale of the lab do they need you?
Well, from day one.
They do?
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, from day one. Like they can't report without software. So for that report to be created with the right audit trail for any, medical auditability purposes, they need a solution that can maintain all that for them.
And like, what's your typical, okay, so year 2, you guys are closing all of these 50 people. Like, what's your typical sales cycle like from start to finish? How long does it take? Like, what's your pitch, by the way?
So our pitch was like a cloud solution, cheaper cost, more features.
Okay.
And then almost always it used to be like, do you have this functionality? Like everything else is good. Do you have this? And we're like, we are ready to build it if you want to come on board and give us a commitment and we'll build it. And we did that with a lot of enterprise customers to an extent where we just had most of the solutions now. Okay. Most of these tidbit functionalities that they needed. It's like, I don't know if you know or if you've heard about this, where healthcare requires high configurability. like healthcare workflows.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So each doctor thinks their workflow is very unique.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is, but it is actually a broader part of the same workflow. So there's just few tweaks. We kind of saw it as it was. Like initially we thought it was, okay, it's easy. Let's put flags and make it configurable. At one point it was like, okay, there are just too many configurations. But then we kind of took a different design approach towards this. So there's been an evolution in terms of how we manage workflows, but end of the day, it was like those like detail of configurability that kind of mattered. Even today, our solution, our system in like one place versus another large setup. Like for example, we work with the Manipal group. Yeah. So their workflow through and through versus if we look at the Tata, which is the Tata Memorial in Mumbai. So their workflow through and through is highly different. Like some people might think it's not even the same software.
Okay.
So, but actually foundationally same database, same, structure. It's just front-end tweaks and like workflow configuration. So yeah, so we kind of mastered a lot of that, which helped us get into Middle East and then helped us get into Europe because they were just different configurations of the same instrument and the same test and the same workflow. And the US also was pretty much the same.
So okay, it's very interesting. So let's say, when did the deal with Tata Memorial come in? Was it about 3
years?
5 years in?
5 years back. So yeah, 5 years in, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been in this for 10 years?
For 10 years, yeah. Yes. I know it's been a long time and it's, yeah.
Okay. And so the initial like year 1 to 5 was just small labs.
Yeah, mostly small. We had a couple of large customers like in year 3 or 4, like one of our customers, which is the Fidelity Group, they ended up using our solution and they liked it and they invested in us.
Oh, wow.
So like that kind of worked in. And then we had a couple of large customers after then. So yeah, large customers always has been challenging to change from. So because they come with a lot of baggage and implementation is when implementation comes in. Like it's a very, very
and like for example, of Fidelity, like what were they using before you? Were they using one of these legacy?
Yeah, they were using some of the one of the local softwares. Okay. It was an offline on-prem solution. Yeah, I don't recollect the name, but it was some Windows-based solution of some sort. Yeah.
All right.
So,
but they wouldn't obviously have the infrastructure that you guys need. You just need to make like a deployment for them specific to them.
Correct. Yeah. So it was cloud, and all they needed was internet. And the good thing was we realized radiology centers have internet by default.
Right.
So, like for them to adopt and start using quickly was easy. Like,
what was your plan to move across India? Like, first was Pune, of course.
Yeah.
Then how did you decide?
Well, we stumbled a lot there. Like, we felt that it was Pune, Mumbai, and then the entire India.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, right? Yes. And then we did Mumbai, and Mumbai was easier because you could just drive, and then you could have one person, and that guy was from Mumbai, he used to travel often, so that relationship was easy. But then things started going really wrong when we got guys in Bangalore.
Okay.
And it's not nothing for Bangalore, but just in a new, very distant city. Mm-hmm. And same with Delhi, and then same with Hyderabad, same with Kolkata. We realized that we have no idea how to manage remote sales teams, and we can't travel as frequently. So yeah, at one point we got an office in Bangalore, and then we shut that down because we were really over our heads in terms of what we could do versus what we were really.
And this was year 3 onwards. Year 3.
Yeah, I think about year 4. Year 4. Yeah. Year 4, we had an office in Bangalore.
And how are you guys creating the sales team? So you're hiring somebody local there, and it's like primarily target-based, touch-point based.
Yeah, correct. So we find a local guy. We tell them, okay, this is a product. Just meet these guys, demo the product. Anyone interested, let us know. We will come and explain the detail of the solution.
All right. So
he was equipped with like a basic understanding of the workflow, and like with collateral materials, like we had a lot of brochures and like sales collaterals that we could share.
Hmm.
And on top of that, like it was like some product specialist doing the demo, sort of.
And that was in person, had to be in person.
No, it was remote.
It was remote.
Because after Pune and like Mumbai, we couldn't scale in
Did that
person.
work?
No, it did not work. So 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 there was a tipping point in about year 4, I think, where some part of online sales started working. So we were really excited, but it was all done and driven by the Pune team. So there was no remote teams doing the first touch and then sold by the Pune. So that didn't work. But the guy is doing entirely remote. And the funny thing was that I remember, like, we told our team that just share an online video link and ask them to come online. And they're like, doctors are not going to come online. And we're like, let's just try it. It's not too difficult.
Yeah.
And we saw a couple of people joining online, and we were so happy about it. Like, we just couldn't believe it that, this is going to work. So, and actually, honestly, since then, like, that has been, inside sales has been like our predominant method of like sales delivery globally today.
Okay.
And then we know which are like deeper pockets, and there we do local effort. It's just not practical to.
But then that lead gen point is how exactly? Like, how are you getting them?
It's online, like a phone call or
I'm guessing these people would not be like, it has to be a phone call, like that would be
events, like things like events and conferences kind of work. There are times when you can meet them in person through a reference or someone, so that helps. You can do ads.
Okay.
But ads can be a spiral, is what some of our recent learnings has been. So so there are different ways you can just emails don't work. Like,
of course. Yeah. This very different set of people, I'm guessing.
Yeah, LinkedIn and all also don't work. So we have to call them. Yeah, that's the most.
So okay, I think it's a fairly sales-led effort that's needed here. Okay.
Heavy sales.
And when was your first round? You guys must have raised like a seed round.
Yeah, we did an angel round in 2015. Yeah, 2015.
3 years in.
Yeah, 3 years in with the Fidelity guys. And so Dr. Pramod got in with one of his friends. So together we did an angel round. And I think about 2.5, 3 years later, we did another round with Nexus.
Right.
So that was our kind of a seed round. And since then, we didn't raise. We did like a debt capital 2 years back in COVID.
Okay.
Because debt was cheap, and we weren't sure how much funding we actually needed, but so.
And that first round was done, like, what were your growth numbers? What's your key metric? Is it just number of labs?
Number of customers, and revenue.
Okay. And like, what were the number of customers in that angel round, like, at that moment?
At that time, we had about, I think, 80 or 100 customers.
Okay. And the objective was more customers and team, or was it just more?
Yeah, like, actually, we, for the most time, always felt that our main metric was number of customers. And the second most important metric was revenue, because those are two undeniable metrics. Eventually, we kind of moved to revenue being way more important. So that changed the company a little bit. And today, we kind of consider like a ARPU being more important, where like higher ARPU, we focus more on like higher ARPU customers. So that's been how the business and this thing has been evolving.
That must be because of different geographies also.
Yes, a lot. Like, we couldn't, like, when we did Middle East, Middle East pays like US value at like India close operations. So that was great. And we got a lot of large customers in the Middle East. And like, for example, in Dubai, of the top 10 labs, we serve about 5 of them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and same with Saudi, and we've got like a very good local presence there. And all that comes because of ultimately just like listening to customers, that told us, or that kind of taught us how to focus more on high value customers. And when these guys come in, your like thousands of customers in India kind of don't really matter, because the revenue is the same.
And when did Middle East start? Like, was that after the angel round?
It was after Nexus, actually.
Okay.
So Sandeep really pushed in, like, from Nexus, like, he really pushed in to go abroad. He's like, India is not probably your market. Like, it's not, you won't make money in India. So
For the first 6 years, you guys are just focusing on the India market. What were like growth?
yeah, because like our mindset was like, partially it was like, let's be close to home.
Yeah.
And let's see what is being used. But also partially like we are excited for building for India, right? So it was that both.
India bug.
Yes. And we realized that, okay, the market is not ready. So it's like, okay, so.
So you guys started, was the first touch point Dubai? Like how did that start journey?
It was inbound through our website.
Okay.
Most of our countries that we went abroad were inbound. We had customers reach out to us from like countries like Sudan and Egypt and Bahrain and Saudi and yeah, like
So marketing does work.
yeah, like website to an extent, of course, yes.
Okay.
We got customers from like all sorts of countries like Vietnam, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, like, and none of this we ever advertised. Like we didn't, like that wasn't ever our focus area.
Okay.
But that gave us a taste of like how we could like sell at a different price.
Right.
Yeah. So that was exciting.
What's the landscape like in Middle East? Is still so fragmented? I'm guessing it'll be a little organized.
A little organized, yes. Middle East is more organized. But you know what? Like I've noticed that across the world, the healthcare is fragmented.
Yes.
And I don't see that changing. Like it benefits the patient and the provider both. So it's a win-win interest to be fragmented. There are consolidations that have happened in like the diagnostic space in the US, for example, like 2 large companies own like 80% of the market share, or in Europe, again, like top 4 companies own like about 80% market share. So those consolidations have happened, but the end care delivery side has always remained very fragmented, and I think it will remain fragmented for the most time.
And that makes sense, right? It's a fairly personal choice who you pick your provider to be.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there are a lot of other factors rather than skill, right? Like
Correct.
bedside manners and God knows what else.
Yeah.
So I think that there is some other consolidation also happening. Like for example, the India National Health Stack.
Yes.
There are certain pockets,
Yes.
like especially around digitized sections.
Correct.
Like maybe the insurer or
Yes.
the actual medical record being shared.
Correct.
But yeah, you're right. I think largely the touch point between the doctor and the patient will still be fragmented.
Yeah, it'll be one-on-one. And yeah.
And so you guys got that first inbound from the Middle East.
Yes.
And that sale must have been remote.
Yes, it was remote.
And then what about the other one?
It was remote for the most time till we did one event in Saudi.
Okay.
Actually, no, till the event in UAE, like Dubai. And
I wish I could be with you today, in the flesh as they say, but I'm in India. Have you ever been to India? You know, in the IT services industry, there are 2 worlds. There are clients and then there are service providers. You know as well as I do that it's impossible to hire for every role, build that expertise in-house, and further nurture that practice so retention isn't a nightmare. The vendors that you work with today have probably been working with you for a long time. They were referred by a trusted advisor or a friend. But over the years, your engagement with them hasn't changed much. The founders may have taken a back seat and are probably not accessible anymore. They're thinking, why change what works? You know as well as I do that being at the cutting edge is a necessity and isn't optional anymore. What you also know is that to succeed and grow, you need a team of go-getters that are constantly thinking about you and how to grow your business. A team that believes that you don't need an army of people to build great digital products. You need a few experts, go-getters with the right skills, practices, and business context. I've built such a team at Wednesday. We specialize in data engineering, applied AI, and application development and design. If you'd like to know what a good IT services relationship can be like, Let's talk.
And then things start changing because we met larger customers, and then we started moving, like going, traveling and meeting them.
Yeah.
And that took us about 3 years to really build that relationship in the Middle East. But that helped a lot. Like more and more customers trusted us. The good thing was they were used to buying software from India, so which was a win. And they trusted, like, I think globally people trust India with software at least.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing. It works in our favor. And even in the US, like, they do trust, like, most Indians with software. Yeah.
And so, like, what was that journey like? Was it a different sales experience?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was a different culture. Like, the priorities were different.
Like, give me an example.
Like, there, for example, like, day-to-day workflows are not so, like, because the decision makers and the payers are not really involved in the workflow, they will not care if the critical test notification is sent and highlighted, or the quality control notification. Like, if you don't run a quality control on an instrument, the system will show alerts. But in Middle East, it's like, okay, it's fine. That's not, we're not going to see it. I want to know the revenue. I want to know the top line. I want to know how my business is doing.
Okay.
Right. And dashboards. And, like, I want to know my relationship with my GP, like building tools for that. I want to automate that experience. So those kind of things came along. Whereas in India, like, if you give a portal to a doctor to order tests for the lab, an internal portal, so it's easier for doctors to, like, get the reports back.
Yeah.
Most of them don't order. They will write the prescription and give it to the patient, and it's a patient's problem to go to the lab. So there it's not like that. So the doctor will record it for you and send it to the lab, and he will tell you the result. So you don't have to contact the lab ever.
Okay.
But it's good for the lab where they maintain B2B relationships. So these kind of things were required. So the product then changed in that way. We got, like, the Mobadla group using our solution for all their GP ordering.
Okay.
So that was, and in India, it's always like the doctor will never order, so we don't want the login. It's always like that. So,
and you guys do like a small pilot with them to get them started, or how does that work?
yeah, sometimes we do pilots, but almost always it's like, okay, if you like the solution, let's go and replace everything and implement.
Oh, so they have to have that kind of trust. I'm guessing it must be like a longer sales cycle.
It's a longer sales cycle, yes.
Okay,
It's about like 8 to 12 months.
Oh, wow. So 8 to 12 months, they're just evaluating, like, what are the different parameters that they look at? I mean, of course, one is tell me how much I make and my relations.
So they want to know, like, each of the business would have some set of, like, priorities.
Yeah.
And we would identify that in the early call and then kind of show them the product based on that, like, priorities. Like, people who want to track revenue, people who want to take, like, B2B orders, or people who want to have invoicing automated, those kind of things. So we will show them those experiences.
Right.
And then there is, like, a multi-department kind of review where different teams in departments actually will review, because LIMS is like, or our solution becomes like the backbone of the business where everything kind of goes through the LIMS. So
before, like, I'm curious to know, like, what were they using before you guys?
So they would be using a solution doing bits and pieces of this, or maybe multiple solutions trying to kind of work together.
So some different software, then some system integration pieces, and they're probably not happy with that workflow because it's a little rigid.
Yeah. And interoperability is like it's a joke in healthcare.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you guys come in and you have, like, the end-to-end support. You're highlighting things that are probably pain points for each of these. Just takes longer to close.
Yeah, and
but once you're
of, like, information between departments is much easier.
Yes.
So it's kind of like an ERP, but ERP is not a word that everybody understands there. Yeah. So lab systems is like what works. So
okay, interesting. And when did the journey? So 2016, Middle East starts.
Yes.
Right. And what's your current lab count in the Middle East?
Middle East is about 60 customers, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the total size there? Like, what is the market looking like?
So So in our estimate, Middle East has about close to 30 to 40,000 labs overall.
Yeah.
And we are focused more on like Saudi, UAE, and like
Those are the bigger pockets.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
And when did the US journey start?
US journey started slightly after the Middle East. Actually, in COVID.
Okay.
That's a better reference. So US started in COVID because we weren't sure if the company is gonna sustain.
Why is that? I think that must be a good period for you guys.
It was early COVID wasn't so much because everything was shut. There was nothing like the first 6 months. There was nothing being running. Like there was no lab, there was no samples being processed. COVID testing came like eventually, and we grew a lot during that time in the subsequent years. But during the first year, we kind of contemplated a lot in terms of how are we gonna sustain? And in those contemplations, we said, okay, if we have to shut down, we'll go take the biggest size of the market. We'll try there, and if it doesn't work, it's fine. We pack our bags and go back.
But why would during COVID people are stopping their subscriptions? Is that the reason?
So the hopeful part was that we wrote an email to all our customers saying that it's a difficult time, just like you, for us as well, and we would appreciate if you do not or support us, basically. And about 80%, more than that, I think, our customers continue to pay us.
Okay.
When everything was shut, there's zero volume. The system was not even our monitoring was showing like barely any orders. Like some pockets, like people working in government hospitals and all had some tests, but that's all. Like even maybe emergency to a level was being used, but the rest was like it was completely down, and people continue to pay us. So we like that part about like the whole experience. But then we realized that it can't continue like that forever. And we had, just before COVID, we did the round with Nexus. So Nexus invested in 2019 and 2020 was like COVID. So we did investments thinking life is going to be big and better.
Yeah.
So
this was primarily team and...
team. We got a new office and we had to figure out a way to sustain ourselves. So I'm like, okay, what's the wildest that we can do? And it's like, okay, let's try US.
And what were the numbers like? What was the objective of raising the round for Nexus? Was it just growth?
Yeah, it was growth.
More number of customers. So
More customers,
what were the goals that you had set?
So we had to basically get at least 50% of the revenue from abroad, like outside India.
Okay.
So that was the goal, that we move more and more outside, and eventually it's like, and incidentally what happened is, as we got more international customers, our India customers also started growing, especially on the enterprise side.
Okay.
Partly because they saw us as an international company. So I think inherently there is this FOMO of international products that happens in India. But also on the other hand, people saw this as a global product also. So they trusted it more. There was more interest onto it. So yeah.
How does that work? So you go and tell an enterprise here saying we are being used by so-and-so in the US and that has a better optic value?
It does. We are not necessarily going and telling them that. The people who were initially involved with similar set of customers and had reached out, whenever new people got involved, they used to ask that what are they doing? And that was the conversation starter, that they are now focusing on a different part of the business.
Okay.
So, and incidentally, in events, we kind of started positioning Crelio Incorporation as a highlight area than the software private limited company in India.
Okay.
So couple of tweaks. The website got changed to a more US centered this thing. So
you guys also changed from Live Health to CrelioHealth, right?
Yes.
When was that?
That was when we did US.
Okay.
So there was a trademark issue in the US with a large Anthem, it's a multi-billion-dollar insurance group, and they own the trademark of Live Health in the US. So we couldn't use that, so we had to change.
Okay.
Yeah.
And talk to me about the US journey. So you guys end up over there. You must have had some kind of inbound.
Yeah, largely inbound. US was entirely inbound for the first 2 years. About 100 customers entirely inbound.
Help me understand US market. Okay, so what are we looking at? Are these small labs, large diagnostic centers?
So US has about 300 to 350 1,000 labs.
Oh, wow. That's fairly large.
Yeah, and the types of labs are different. So US doesn't do so many normal labs that we have in India. So they have specialized labs. Like molecular became a big thing when COVID happened, but they have toxicology labs, anatomical labs, all sorts of different like lab testing, but highly specialized. So the generic testing gets pulled into these big two and like predominantly the big 10 labs in the US, which cover like 80%, like the lion's share of the market. And the rest is left to like independent labs. But the good thing is that the independent labs do high profitable tests.
All right.
So they have a lot of like revenue to.
But why is that? Like India is like 3-4 times the population, right?
Yes.
They have lesser number of labs.
So on an average, one patient in India would do about 1.5 to 2 tests a year.
All right.
US would do 14.
Okay.
Yeah. And similarly, like Middle East will compare about 5 to 6 tests a year per person. And UK also comes above 10. So we see like a lot of developed countries eventually doing a lot of testing. We know that India will get there.
Is it preventive? Like what kind of tests are we
It's almost always curative. Like
okay.
it's always comes through a GP. So elective testing is not something that happens too much in these countries. It's funny because we promote a lot of preventive testing here, but in the US, the closest preventive this thing is a once in a year annual checkup, which your insurance is going to fund, because you can't just go and do a test. Like you can't knock at the lab store and say, I want to. They're like, we need a doctor prescription for that.
And why is that? Is it just like lifestyle or?
Yeah, I think it is how the healthcare system is designed.
Okay.
Like it. So in like my best guess is it helped insurance companies keep a track of like who ordered and why. So everything is coded. So every test and every healthcare expense is like coded under what disease, what condition, and that coding comes through a GP.
Okay.
So for you to do a test, so for example, you do an HbA1c, like so it's either for diabetes monitoring, or it's a suspected diabetes, or it's just that there is some other condition which might have HbA1c might help there. Each of these things have a different code, and they decide how much you're going to pay for the test. So the test is charged the same, but depends on why you need it. So
okay,
yeah, it's complicated. Yeah, it could be simpler.
Yeah, but I think given the volume of tests, some of these labs may not even make sense in India, right? Because they just don't know it.
Yeah, like toxicology is a big deal in the US. Like, so a part of GPs end up prescribing like painkillers and a lot of the opioid crisis, and like that happened. So the government's reaction to that was, let's go and make sure before you prescribe this, you do a tox screen. So that means there are a lot of tox labs required. Then you pay hundreds of dollars for a tox screen and then prescribe, look at contraindications and like.
So now, I mean, even the software is going to change, right?
Yes.
Like drastically, because now you have like a insurer, which is a big part of this ecosystem.
Yes.
Like how did the software evolve?
So US needed its own workflow, especially the patient ordering and the patient registration part. But the good thing is like once a lab has a sample, everything from collecting that sample to delivering a report is homogeneous worldwide.
Makes sense.
So there are different ways to like.
It's just that settlement and the registration, which is a little different given the people who are coming in.
And we realize more and more so today that we are more of a billing company and a reporting company than a workflow company. Like workflow, we've been trying to sell workflow. We love our workflow systems, but the customers really want a good billing system. So that is really what they care about. Like, and the better our billing solutions are, and the more configurable they are, the more wins we get. So it's kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about your team.
Yeah.
So, like, give me a sense of like how are you dividing things right now? Like, how big is like engineering right now?
Yeah, engineering is about 80 people. What most of 50% of our company almost is
Is it?
engineering and
Do you
product.
need all of that because of like multiple geographies, different
Yeah,
versions?
a part of that, and we are also building a lot of stuff. Like I
Build
think,
things. Okay.
yeah, and there is a slight tend or like a bias towards like building stuff. So we like doing it, and we try experiments, we tried doing new things, and yeah, I think
No, the more I talk to you, I feel like that's like a very big differentiator that you guys have, right? Because like when you're talking to customers,
Yeah.
if they tell you, "Oh, can you do this?" You go like, "Yeah, sure, I can do that."
do that. Yes.
It seems like a very new like thing in this space, because I doubt that other players are providing that flexibility.
Yeah, they don't. And I think the best part is that the software that is built in healthcare is so legacy. They've not been touched, like the source code has not been touched for like ages. Like they would write some plugins on top of it with like some legacy XML interoperability format, which is going to be like fine based XML. So they want to like it's going to be a sort of a SFTP protocol, and it's going to be like an extremely age old standard, and most people don't even accept JSON as a form of interoperability. So, and they're just carrying forward. It's like banking. It's how traditional banking has been. It's how healthcare legacy solutions have been. And we know that the only diff between us and them is that can we offer everything that they offer plus other things that cloud obviously will offer. So, and it's just that constant battle that we end up having. So,
Yeah, I think that's the whole ideal. I think that's the customer service that you're providing, which is helping you move faster. Because the minute they tell you, "Can you do this?" you're like, "Yes."
yeah.
Mind blown. I think that's a very interesting. And what about the other players in your team? Like the remaining 80 are divided across what functions?
Yeah, so we've got about 40 in service, like actually slightly more than 40 in like customer service. So customer service is implementation, like our on-demand service, which is chat and call support, and then customer success. So that constitutes about 80, 60. Yeah, and about 20 in sales and marketing.
And you guys are running this around the clock.
Service side, we've got shifts.
Okay.
So US and UK shifts are different than India shift. Though our India team still happens to be larger because
Well, you do have some service people in these countries as well.
no, so it's only salespeople in those countries. So service is entirely done from here in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At some point we plan to, but yeah.
And I mean, I think the go-to-market strategy for any health tech company is always going to be potentially events, right? Like that seems to be a very interesting entry point.
Yes.
People are there to listen. They're open to hear you out.
Yeah.
None of the other entry points, like what's been your like experience running ads? Does it like
Ads work.
interesting return?
Yeah, ads work. The ROI is about like 1-to-1. So you would get like for $1 you get about 1.5 to $2.
Okay.
But it's very easy to overinvest on ads, and there is seasonality in the market. So there are parts where your ads could get very expensive. So you have to be very like cautious about it.
Why is there seasonality? Would they be interested in buying it throughout the year?
So yeah, like in India, what we see is people don't end up changing solutions in peak seasons, which is the monsoons.
Okay.
There's a lot of higher volumes. There's a slight seasonality. It's not that we do zero deployments there. We do. US end of the year is almost nothing. So there's that seasonality. UK similar. Middle East during Eid and this thing, it's like there's nothing.
Non-existent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the seasonality. It's the cultural seasonality.
Okay. Let's talk about like how you guys are running the product team.
Yeah.
So typically what I've seen is most companies have some of the other, I mean, it just happens over time. They build some of the other practice internally. But when did you guys hire your first product manager?
Our product manager was elected internally.
Oh, so he's been there with you guys for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so what role did he come from?
Customer success.
Oh, that's very interesting. So he's a customer champion.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And that helps a lot. Like,
Okay.
absolutely. So yeah, we have compliments from engineering in product, but they still don't play like a crucial product role. It still comes through the current like independent team. But engineering is like very closely involved in like scopes and like feasibility.
I love how you built this company. It's very like sales driven, the customer is at the center, a lot of empathy, given the fact that your product person itself comes from a customer success background. Like, what are some of the experiments that you guys are running? Like, tell me something that has given good return.
On the product side.
Yeah.
We are trying to build a system that allows the medical reports to be configured in whatever way possible. So you can put in charts. Like, for example, let's say you do a lipid profile and you do 20 lipid profiles, the system will automatically put in a chart.
Okay.
And we want to make add-ons in that where, okay, so Ali's been doing this test for a while now. I'll give him a subscription package to do like five lipid profiles a year at a discounted price. So I get the money up front and you get a better price. And a pre-booked maybe order or some ways, some schemes, some way to cook on to day-to-day patient transactions where labs could kind of push that. It works a lot in Middle East and India also, obviously. So that's a win. We are trying to build a more flexible middleware for integration. So today, US entirely, like about our 100 customers in the US, every customer has an integration. Like some integration with an EHR, insurance company, clearinghouse, billing software, some or the other, and sometimes more than one. We're trying to create an interoperable layer in between where we can plug and play. The obvious approach would have been the JSON approach where there's standard endpoints and you work through. The problem is healthcare doesn't work like that. So healthcare will work with private VPNs for each customer.
Okay.
So it becomes hard to just make it easy like configurable, where customers can just pick an app and install it. Unfortunately, that's not how most of the industry does it. So we have to kind of figure out a way to make it fast for the customer, still adhering to the conventional industry workflows. Like these are like, I understand it's like technical, but we're trying to create a live. We actually did create like a live tracking Swiggy-like system for phlebotomists.
Okay.
Where you can track them in real time, and you can nudge them, and you can pre-plan their trips. So we know like if somebody's coming to Vanauri and if he has 3 collections, I can queue them up in an order for a person, pre-assigned and ready for him to go when he wakes up in the morning.
Okay.
So those kind of things.
Yeah, very interesting. And like, what's your, have you guys studied the India health stack?
Yes. And we've been a part of it. Like,
okay, tell me more about that.
So there's been a part of it where they wanted to create an interoperable layer in India and make it like super easy. So we kind of have been collaborating with them for about, I think, about 4 years now. And we are trying to define, like work together to define like a lab interoperability standard. Like how do lab tests kind of communicate? And the complexity being every test parameter having different reference ranges and all that based on your age, gender, and multiple factors. So we wanted to make it like highly flexible. And to an extent, we started doing that, but the eventual standard which was released was just send a PDF report because that was something that most people could adhere to. And they're working towards like a more like a raw data standard. I think it gives tremendous insights for epidemiologists where public health monitoring could be far better. And we do this in the US. India, it's needed. In the US, it's still highly predictable, but in India, if we could know disease patterns by locality, in more granularity and types of patients, we could take like proactive action towards healthcare.
And I'm guessing to do that, you do need public infrastructure,
Yes.
right? But, I mean, given the fragmented nature of the technology that you're telling me, I'm sure they can observe patterns, but the data is still across
Data is highly
different
fragmented.
companies and fragmented.
Correct. And the health stack ultimately kind of would enable that. And they had ideas of having bots and stuff on top of it and all that. So it's very exciting on what they're building. I'm very hopeful. It just like has been like slower to implement. I understand it's like Aadhaar.
Yeah.
Like in the 10 years of Aadhaar, the first 6 years were like nobody wanted it. But now everybody has it. So I understand that is going to be the eventual goal. So yeah, for us, it's like the framework systems are all built. They end up changing too often, even today. But yeah, sometimes it breaks and then we end up going and fixing it because they're changing APIs and versions and stuff like that.
How are you guys like prioritizing where to focus effort on?
So we define tracks.
Okay.
Kind of. There are parts where like large enterprise customer needs. Then we have like a US billing insurance, like a claim management solution that we are building on. So that is another track. There's another track to improve reporting, like medical reporting, the thing that I talked about. And then there is this other track for UX improvement. So we want to make sure that it's like easier to use, and because sometimes we are actually building fast and like breaking things, and healthcare doesn't appreciate that kind of mindset actually, because they want things to remain as is. Like that, we've got requests from customers who tell us that give us a version of your software that doesn't change.
Okay.
And we're like, it doesn't exist. Like we'll find a way to balance it for you.
Right.
And we're making, like we have conversations with them to explain why change is important.
Right.
And we try and minimize net impact for you. So making things configurable or optional when we change. So yeah, a lot of learnings on that. But net we realized that healthcare is not very... So, yesterday when I was just making a few notes, like one of the insight I had was the industry is very risk averse, but they are very hopeful to change.
Okay.
Right? So it's a very contradictory thing, but you talk to doctors and people on ground level, they really want better solutions. They want to give people a try. They want to try new things, software solutions, whatnot. But as a market, they'll be very risk averse. So if there is something, they're going to try 50 other things before they actually go and change it. Like they'll give 50 reasons to not do it. And most of it will not be valid, but it's just a risk averse. They don't want to change it because it's like, what if something breaks? And I don't want to kind of hurt something which is already running. And more so in the US, like way more risk averse mindset in the US.
Yeah, and I understand why.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the compliance needs here?
So the best compliance that we've seen is the GDPR in the UK. In terms of, so we always built it from a standard that we wanted our data to be safe in our own system. So we always built it with the understanding that we should be able to trust our system with our own data. So build it private enough, secure enough, build the right safeguards in place. Now, being computer engineers, it's kind of obvious in a way. Some things you learn, but net, like building a secure system with like two-factor and stuff like that is most engineers would understand that. And then comes the HIPAA standard for the US, which talks about privacy and like portability. More on privacy than portability. It's not like people don't talk. Portability is just a missed, forgotten P in the HIPAA standard. So it's mostly just making things like secure when you communicate records, store records. So we try to educate our teams in terms of what these standards mean, and sometimes tell customers on what it means for you. So, it's like I have a lock, but I don't have to lock it all the time. It's kind of that in healthcare. So people want to, they would have all the safeguards as options. They would want it. They would not use it most of the times.
Okay.
Almost never in India. So one of the funny thing is so they will never email you health records in the US because email is inherently not as SSL secure. And in India, it's a norm. That is how you're gonna get health records.
WhatsApp also.
Yeah. WhatsApp is still more secure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how it's been. US, it's like they'll fax you the records. So I'm like, okay, that's I understand this is not secure, but then you just reverted to an age-old tech, which is come on, it's not going to be the best. But so that's kind of how people have treated it. So
right.
There are things people are very afraid to touch, to email records. So we come up and say that, okay, we'll not email the report. We'll give you a secure link, which will then ask you for a OTP, like a one-time authorization or a two-factor. And then that kind of works, then people like it. Or a password protected PDF. That's also kind of okay. Things like that. So people want the theater of security,
right,
without the real deal. So it's kind of like that.
Okay, that's very interesting. What's your goal for 24?
24 is so we have a 10 million roadmap in revenue. We want to get there in the next 2 years.
Okay.
So that's our 2025 goal is a $10 million in ARR from US and Middle East, US and ROW, Europe and Middle East.
What's the split like right now?
50-50.
US, Middle East 50 and India 50.
No, so US and Middle East 50-50. Well, India, so it will be 40-40-20.
20 being India.
India, yeah.
And that's the highest number of customers.
Highest number of customers, yes. We've got about 1,200 labs in India.
And the other two in terms of percentage are how much customer percentage?
Count-wise?
Yeah.
About 10%.
Oh, wow. So 10% contributes 80% of revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay.
Very
and, I think no podcast now is sort of done without talking about AI.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen some interesting use cases with AI in your work?
Yeah. So there are things that we kind of just hygiene use cases that we think are going to make day-to-day life better, like auto assignment,
okay,
or recommendations, or give summaries of dashboards.
Right.
So these are things that we are rolling out as a hygiene. And we're excited about that because that makes everyday life better for everybody. But we want to, so we have a few audacious sort of AI this thing. We want to go and start reverse tagging medical records by conditions where so we want the AI to tell you when you're reporting a test, these are a few other patients in your own lab with a similar diagnosis, and this was your interpretation for that diagnosis. Right? So can we just recommend diagnosis based on their own usage, based on their own analysis? That would be interesting. And we want to tell, so this thing is we want to tell patients based on let's say you do a full health profile. We want the AI to tell you exactly the few tests that you should monitor at what frequency. So I know some people might not like it where people end up over-ordering tests, but I think net it's beneficial if you, there are some things you should monitor way more frequently, which we don't, like blood glucose, and some things you should monitor once a year is fine, or once in 3 years is fine based on your age and based on your past records, clinical history and all that. We can personalize that stack for you. And end of the day, it's if diagnostic is brought first to providers patients, and that becomes the first way that you understand your health, it changes the conversation because you're now more informed and empowered. So you're more confident on the treatment than trusting a doctor, just trusting a doctor. So
It's very interesting.
yeah,
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come.
Sure.
It was a pleasure having you.
I was lovely.
I had a lot to learn from this conversation. I wish you and Crelio all the best.
Thanks.
I hope you guys achieve your goal. Before we drop, I wanted to say, if you've liked this episode, please like and share it with a friend. Thanks for watching. See ya.